Hello guys, welcome to another session. In this session we are going to look into first control flow, that is for loops. So let's jump into the Visual Studio Code to understand this topic. So prior to writing the code for loop, I wanted to let you know that there are various type of loops available within the JavaScript. But the first kind of loop which we are going to see is for loops. So now let's start our discussion on for loop. So first we will look into how we can write the for loop syntax. So the syntax for the for loop, we need to write for keyword, and after that we need to specify the initializer, that is I equal to 0, and then afterwards we need to specify the condition. So we need to tell that if I is less than 10, this is one of the example I am showing right now, and then afterward we will specify the increment I plus plus. After that we will start the body of the loop, and within that we are going to write whatever the logic which we want to execute within the loop. This will go inside this body of the loop. So one point to remember over here is that loop is required to iterate the code at number of times whichever we will specify over here in case of for loop. Now coming to this curly braces, as I already said that this is going to be the block. In this block, in a more technical term, this is called as code block. So whatever you want to execute within the loop, you should specify over here. Now we understand that code block. So here we will discuss about these three sections which is being separated with the semicolon. The first section is the initializer, where we need to specify that from where this loop gets started. So we have specified 0. If we specify 1, then this loop will start with 1, but for this case it is going to start with 0. Then afterwards, at every iteration, it is checking the condition. So whether this loop is run for 10 number of time. If it run 10 number time, then it will exit from the loop. And this is the incrementer that will increment after every execution. It will increment by 1 with this plus plus operator, which we have already discussed earlier in shorthand operator. So now we have written the loop. So what we want to do over here is that we want to print the values of the loop. So how we can do that? We can tell that console.log, and then we will tell that step, and after that we will specify over here the I. So let's look into the output, what output it is giving. So you can see over here that it has executed 10 times, and every time it has incremented by 1, as we have mentioned over here. Now let's proceed further. Now let's do something meaningful. If you remember that when we have introduced the control flow, I have shown you one example regarding the fruit ball, where we are having the fruit ball information, all the string is in a smaller case. Now what we will do, we will take that array and convert it into the uppercase. So let's do it. So first we will create an array, and that we are going to tell that fruit bowl, and here we will initialize this with apple, oranges, and then we will tell that grapes. Now this is all in a smaller case. Now my requirement is I want to convert this into a uppercase. So how we will do that? Let's look into that. What we are going to do, we are going to write a loop for I equal to, let me comment this one, and here we will tell that let I equal to 0, and then what we will do, we will take the length of this array so that it will execute only that amount of time. So I can tell that I is less than fruit bowl dot length, so that it will execute the number of time fruit ball length is, and then we will tell that I plus plus. Now the next step, what we have to do, we have to take each of the element and convert it into uppercase. So how we can do that? So let's write it, but let's declare a upper variable, and within that we are going to keep the values of upper values, which we will convert from a smaller to uppercase. And here we will tell that fruit bowl I, this is the index, and then we will tell that to uppercase, and this we will console log it, console.log, and within that we will print the upper. Now save it. Once you save it, let's look into the output. But prior to executing it, here we have doing some mistake. It should be less than the length, that else it will throw one error because it will increment it more than the actual length. Now let's look into the output. Let's jump into the browser. So here you will find that it has converted the smaller case to the uppercase. Now all the string is being printed in uppercase. So this is one of the example and the simplest example which I have given how you can use the control flow, that is for loop over here, to iterate through array, and we have converted the value into uppercase. In the real-time world you will face number of situations where you require to use for loop to iterate through collection data types. Sometime it is required to iterate through the databases. Then for loops comes very handy in such scenarios. So this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in this session. I hope you enjoyed the session and understand that what actually the for loop is, which is our first control flow, and you will also get an understanding that in what scenario you can use the for loop. So on this note, I am stopping over here. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.